At first, Emily thought it was a mistake. A package showed up at her apartment with no return address. Inside was a photograph of her sleeping. But the terrifying part wasn't the photo. It was the date written on the back, because the man who took it had been dead for 3 years. Emily Carter was the kind of person nobody noticed twice. 26 years old, quiet, organized, living alone in a small apartment outside Chicago. Her life followed the same routine every single day. Wake up, coffee, office, grocery store, Netflix, sleep. Nothing unusual ever happened to her, until the packages started arriving. The first box appeared on a rainy Tuesday morning. No sender name, no stamps, just her address written in black marker. Emily almost threw it away. Inside was an old Polaroid photograph of a little girl standing beside a red bicycle. The photo looked like it had been taken in the early 2000s. On the back, someone had written, "You forgot what happened here." Emily didn't recognize the girl, but something about the image bothered her deeply. That night, she couldn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., she heard footsteps outside her apartment door. Slow, heavy, then silence. She looked through the peephole. Nobody, but sitting on the floor outside her door was another package. This time, her hands shook opening it. Inside was a key and a note. Apartment 214, Cedar Hills Motel. Emily had never heard of the place. At least, she thought she hadn't. The next morning, curiosity defeated fear. She drove 2 hours into rural Indiana where the motel stood, abandoned beside an empty highway. The sign barely worked. Half the letters were missing. Cedar Hills Motel. The parking lot was empty, except for one old blue pickup truck covered in dust. Emily walked toward room 214. The door was already unlocked. Inside, the room smelled rotten. Dust covered everything, but someone had recently placed a single object in the center of the bed, a tape recorder. Emily pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a man's voice whispered, "If you're hearing this, he found you again." Emily froze. The voice sounded familiar, very familiar. Then the tape clicked, and another voice spoke, her voice. Crying, begging someone to stop, Emily dropped the recorder instantly. She had never been there before. So how was her voice on that tape? Panicking, she rushed back to her car and drove home. But things got worse. That night, she searched her childhood online, after barely remembering fragments of old memories. And that's when she discovered something horrifying. When Emily was 8 years old, she disappeared for 3 days. Her parents reported her missing. News stations covered the story. Then suddenly, she returned home. The case was sealed. No interviews, no explanation. And according to the article, Emily herself claimed she remembered nothing. But now, the motel, the tape, the photograph. Someone clearly wanted her to remember. The next package arrived 2 days later. Inside was a VHS tape labeled, "Play Alone." Emily didn't own a VHS player anymore, but desperation pushed her to buy one from a thrift shop. At midnight, she finally inserted the tape. The footage was shaky, home video quality. A group of children running through woods, laughing. Then the camera stopped on a little girl, Emily, younger, terrified. Behind the camera, a man whispered, "Tell them what you saw." Young Emily began crying uncontrollably, then screamed. He put her under the floor. The tape cut to black. Emily immediately vomited. Memories started returning in flashes. A basement, screaming. The smell of gasoline. A girl crying for help. And a man with gray gloves. Emily contacted police the next morning. Detective Laura Bennett reopened the old disappearance case. What they uncovered shocked everyone. Back in 2004, multiple children disappeared near Cedar Hills Motel. Most were never found. The prime suspect? A motel owner named Daniel Grayson. But before police could arrest him, he supposedly died in a house fire. Case closed, except for one impossible detail. The recent packages had fingerprints on them. Daniel Grayson's fingerprints. A dead man's fingerprints. Detective Bennett believed someone was copying him, but Emily wasn't convinced, because every package contained details nobody else could know. Then came the final delivery. A small cardboard box left inside Emily's apartment, meaning whoever sent it had access to her home. Inside was a single sentence. "Basement, tonight, come alone." Underneath the note was an address. Emily should have called police. But deep down, she needed answers. The house sat deep in the woods outside town. Abandoned. Rotting. Dark. The basement door was already open. Emily walked downstairs holding only her phone flashlight. And then she saw them. Dozens of old videotapes. Children's shoes. Tiny backpacks. photos covering every wall, years of disappearances. In the center of the basement sat an old television, already turned on. Static flickered across the screen. Then suddenly, a live camera feed appeared, showing Emily standing in the basement. Someone else was there, watching her, breathing. Slowly, behind her. Emily turned around, but nobody stood there. Then her flashlight revealed something carved into the wall. A message: he never died. At that exact moment, footsteps echoed upstairs. Heavy! Slow, coming toward the basement door. Emily backed away in terror as the footsteps stopped directly above her. Silence. Then, a voice. Old, calm, whispering through the darkness. You finally remembered. The screen cut to black. What do you think happened to Daniel Grayson? Was he really alive? Or was someone continuing his crimes? Comment your theory below, and if you want more dark mystery stories inspired by real unsolved cases, subscribe now before the next story disappears.